Welcome to the Esports Awards Origins podcast. I am your host, Trevor Quickshot Henry, and today I get to speak to one of my favorite on-air color casters. This is a multi-game caster, a former professional player, an Esports Awards winner for Color Caster of the Year, and quite frankly, one half of my personal favorite ALGS all-time caster duo. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dan Gaskin. Mr. Gaskin, hello, welcome. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing excellent. That was a very generous intro. I appreciate it, but
Listen,
doing
hang
really
on.
Really well.
Listen, you're too British now. It's not too generous. You are a former pro player. You are a multi-game color caster. You are an award-winning champion. And just for my taste, I love your voice. I love hearing you in onset. When I was learning Apex and trying to get into it, it's your voice that I hear and I associate with the game. So I'm just going to say thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Means the world. And I'm happy to be here and happy to have a chat.
Nice. Well, listen, let's quickly remind you and all of our viewers who may not know, Origins is the podcast where we talk to your favorite content creators, pro players, broadcast talent, people behind the scenes. And for Dan and everybody watching, we want to get to know a little bit who you were before you became the Gaskin. What were you like as a kid? What's your first memory of playing games, Dan?
Oh, first memory of playing games, probably Sega Mega Drive, Streets of Rage 1 and 2 with my eldest brother, then moving into like Golden Axe, then Micro Machines, Street Racer, Duke Nukem, Doom. I remember a friend he had a dad who had like 3 PCs, and we used to LAN like Duke Nukem and Warcraft 1 and 2. So those are probably like my earliest memories. Sega Mega Drive into PS1 into like early PC days for sure.
Do you know what I love so much? Almost every game that you've just listed, actually maybe every game you just listed, is either co-op multiplayer or competitive multiplayer. Like Golden Axe, I've been lucky to do a bunch of these. You're the first person that's dropped that. My childhood just got brought back to me. I mean, wild. Was being competitive and playing either with or against other people like a big part of your gaming youth?
Absolutely. Me and my brother especially were very competitive against each other. Always wanted to beat him in everything we did. And some games I would, some games he would absolutely thrash me. But competitive nature is something that's always been a part of me since I was just a wee lad, for sure.
It hasn't waned with age. I got the pleasure to spend some time with you in Vegas recently. We'll get to that later. But, okay, paint a picture for me now. You've just listed pretty much like 5-ish years of games, going up to LANs for Warcraft. How old is Dan when you start getting involved in, let's say, online gaming? And be honest with me, what were you like as a student, a son, and a gamer? How did you balance these 3 things as a growing young man?
So first time I went to a LAN was probably, I think I was like 12 or 13. So originally I played Halo 1 with one of my cousin's friends, and he absolutely thrashed me. And then I went back and bought Halo 2 on release day and thrashed him after I'd played it a bunch. And then I joined like a Halo 2 clan. And then I went to a LAN in Norwich, which was about a 4-hour drive from where I lived in England, and my mum drove me there. And that was like my first jump into real competitive gaming, because they were like competing on a Halo forum and things like that. So that was the first time I truly started like realizing, yeah, this is going to be something I want to do and I want to compete. But then when I moved into being a student, you said? Because I was studying performing arts at university. And at the time, I was still competing in Halo 4, I think it was. And then also, I was trying to keep my parents happy at the same time. I didn't balance it well. I'm going to be honest. I actually retired from competing when I was at university because I couldn't keep up with the scrim hours. I was too set on trying to be social. I lived with 11 girls at the time, so you can imagine I didn't have much private time in my house. They very much kept me busy, and they made sure they were always bugging me when I was downstairs. But
and I'm sure
it was definitely difficult.
I'm sure if I can interject that there was more than a fair few that would take umbrage or be frustrated by your online life and go, no, come on, you got to come with us. You got to come out. It's weekend life. I've heard enough university stories from my wife, who's British, to know for a fact that happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so it was 2 of us boys, 11 girls. We lived on the basement floor, and it was just like a very tall building that had stupid amount of rooms. But because I was right next to the living room, I had no escape. they were knocking on my door. They were like, yeah, let's go out drinking. Let's do whatever. Let's go out partying, or we're just going to hang out down here. And I'm like, I'm trying to scrim, girls. Come on.
Yeah.
The worst part was to get to the laundry room. You either had to walk all the way around the house or go through my room. And obviously England's not a warm place to be. So they were always like, oh, can we come through your room to go do our laundry? And how am I supposed to scrim when I've got girls just coming through doing their laundry all day?
Oh, okay. I know the answer to the question, but 2 boys living with 11 girls for freshers and dorms, nightmare or amazing?
Amazing
Both?
at first. Nightmare. I created some nightmare situations. Let's put it that way.
Do you know what I love so much? Number one, you're my first Bachelor of Arts for Performing Arts degree user. I've spoken to a lot of people who got degrees, but the performing degree obviously is going to help you in professional life. And secondly, we've really dug into some origin stories that I guarantee neither my producer nor anybody else has been listening is going to be fully aware of. Okay, but now let's talk about the BA. Why Bachelor of Arts? And what was kind of the ambition maybe prior to getting involved in esports? You know, what direction did you hope life was going to go?
I always wanted to be an actor. I think from primary school, I was joining school plays. Secondary school is when I think I realized that my teachers realized I was very good on stage, certainly for like theatrical performances. I did a musical called Little Shop of Horrors, which you may or may not know. I mean, it's very popular.
Feed me, Leroy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was the dentist, and I think that was when my sister turned around and she was like, okay, like you are very good at what you do and you should definitely pursue this. I was getting A's in all of my drama work at secondary school, but you know, I was like B's or C's in everything else pretty much. That was really where I excelled. So I was like, I want to pursue this. I actually went to college originally to do game design, and I dropped out and then instead pursued performing arts, drama, acting instead, and ended up doing it as a degree. And I think that was always my plan. I wanted to do the audition life and see what would happen. And I did do certain things, but then this kind of happened. Esports kind of arrived, and it was a perfect blend of all of my hobbies and interests.
I mean, I want to also hear how gaming changed in your life, because you went from competing to then, I presume, more social or more fun, while studying. Just before though, my memory's a little foggy. The dentist was also the boyfriend and the villain in the show. Be honest. How much of an asshole did you portray yourself? For those who don't know, the villain and the dentist in the show is really not a nice person. And I can't see you being that much of a villain. You're too nice of a guy.
I think what was really funny is at the time I was in year 9. So I was like, 15, 14. And the lead girl was in 6th form. So she was 17, 18. And I was only like 5'5" at the time. I don't think I'd even hit my last growth spurt. And she was 5'9", 5'10". And it looked really funny. And she had to be my girlfriend.
It must have worked for the show, though.
I had to be mean to her.
Yeah.
And, I just tap into something different. I think that the people who know me and haven't seen me act on stage, I'm not me anymore. I just become something different. I don't care what the character is, whether it's a nasty character, nice character, funny character, evil character. I used to love portraying anything that was not me. I just loved being something different.
In some ways, you've also done all of those things in ALGS as well. In some ways, in some of the moments and things, maybe not quite as villainous, don't get me wrong. But yeah, talk to me now then about gaming, because you were competing, you retired, in quotation, floating marks, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How does then gaming and your BA then lead to the esports industry? And I'd say maybe your first job, because if acting is the goal, you've then technically taken a detour. How did that happen?
So there's a lot of pieces to this, and feel free to interrupt if I start talking too much. But I spoke about when I was 13, I was going to the LANs with the Halo clan. That clan was part of Matchbox 360, who then went on to make the XL events, who were competitive events. They did 6 LAN events, I think, in the UK. I helped set up, admin, and compete at those events when I was just like 13, 14. And that kind of led to my esports journey beginning when I started to play Halo 3, Halo 4, Halo 5, Gears of War, Forza, PES, FIFA, anything I could get my hands on, I wanted to compete in it. Then, went through all that decade of competing, retired briefly when I was at university, came back for Halo 4 after Halo Reach. Then Halo 5 came out, And Richard Sims, who I used to compete with, and you may know as a commentator, he used to be on Halo, used to be on PUBG.
Yes.
He was the play-by-play that Microsoft and Halo had hired, and they were looking for a color commentator. And Richard, he reached out. I don't know why I'm calling him Richard. Sims reached out to me. I've never called him Richard in my life.
It's because we're in first name basis here. You know what
exactly.
I mean? I've ruined the magic here. So it's Gaskin and Sims. Okay, we'll go with that one.
He reached out and he was like, hey, like, would you be interested in doing some color commentary? You used to compete. You may still be competing. And I know you have a history of being on camera and or acting. And we had done an interview back in Halo 4 where we had this interview for like 30 minutes, him and I, that I was able to send over to ESL at the time. I also sent them my stand-up video, I think, just to show that like I had a little bit of camera presence. And in the end, they hired me to join the Halo World Championship qualifiers in 2016. They were happy. Sims was happy. ESL was happy. And in the end, they then hired me for a full-time talent member on ESL UK. So that's where I kind of ended up. And then prior to that, I know you asked, like, what did I look like before I got that job? I was an assistant manager in a restaurant chain, and I was on the way to becoming a manager. They were talking about giving me my own restaurant, but then I had an event come up that was in the United States, and I was like, hey, I need this time off because I have a thing I want to do. And they were like, no. And I was like, all right, well, see you later. And I dipped. Yep.
Well, listen, was that by a massive long shot, by absolute definition, a success, right? Because you took a long shot on this opportunity, have managed to find so much success because I know you commentated Halo, I know you commentated Counter-Strike, I know you've done FIFA, ALGS is the big one that I personally know you for. Let's talk about learning those skills because now you start doing some of these commentary gigs with Halo 5. You are a natural speaker, you've studied it, performing arts as well. But live broadcast and sport is different to performing. So how do you find your voice and how much did the live environment get benefited by your studies and your history?
I think when I first did it, I was obviously nervous. I think anyone would be, but I wanted to be myself. I didn't want to try and be some sort of like crazy broadcaster who put on a completely different voice. And I'll get into that later. There's definitely finding your voice. I think that training in theater helps with speaking from your diaphragm. And you'll definitely notice when I'm on broadcast, I might sound a little bit deeper at times. And I think that's just because naturally when I project through my diaphragm, it becomes a little bit deeper. But the first time I casted, I just didn't want to be someone else. I wanted to be me. I wanted to be the Gaskin that was competing and playing so that then the viewers were like, oh, this is the guy who I used to play against. I know that he's been competing and I trust his opinions and I want to hear what he has to say. I didn't want to be too over the top with trying to go for some sort of commentator voice straight away. And I think that people kind of liked my conversational style when we were outside of game. But then in game, I really wanted to find a way for color commentary to still be exciting without people kind of watching and being like, oh, well, color commentator saying boring stuff, yada, yada, yada. Oh, exciting things. Let's listen to the other guy. I wanted to be a hyper color commentator. That was the way I always saw it. That if I was making a point and something exciting happened, screw that point. I don't care anymore. Let's focus on what's happening. I'll get back to that point later. And I always enjoyed being able to bounce off my partner at the time, which was Sims. And then since then, obviously, I've had other commentating partners. Jersey Onset for ALGS, of course, who is fantastic to bounce off of. But I've always wanted to be color commentary to be exciting and not just boring dribble that people don't really want to listen to. Like there will always be the certain kind who love analysis, but I think your average viewer can be very put off by boring statistics and people not getting excited.
If it does mean anything coming from me, I think you nailed it. I completely understand exactly what you're saying. And I think one of the things that I do really love about your analytical style, when there is time, your pacing and eloquence is really something to be praised. I never feel like I lose a word. I never feel like I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. But I also will be honest, I still get surprised when you do yell. When you do go bigger than yourself, like you go real big. And it's something that catches me off guard and it's exciting, keeps you in the moment, especially in Apex. How long do you think it took you to find your voice? And, by that, for the viewers at home, we're talking about your style, your approach to the game, like your brand of content. How long do you think it took you? And then when you started to hone in on it, what did that process look like?
I think that it took several games because like you said, I covered a lot of games when I was at ESL UK. They threw me on everything. I was their Swiss Army.
Halo, Gears of War, FIFA, Forza, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Halo, to name a few.
Overwatch, Hearthstone I ended up being on as well. And all these games have very different pacing and require very different commentary depending on the time, the event, etc. So I think that by doing all these games, I was able to find a blend of what I felt was me. And I think that, like you say, the biggest thing for me was excitement. Knowing when to be excited, knowing when to really build up those moments. Because I think if you watch a new commentator, and I don't think I did this, but I may have as well. It's 10 years ago now. People will get excited over everything. It's a lot of yelling. It's a lot of hype. And it's hard to really know what is the exciting moment because everything is exciting. But like you said, if you're surprised when I do suddenly get excited, then that moment is a really good moment. And that makes me happy to hear that because sometimes being able to distinguish the big moments from the incredible moments is really what commentators should be able to do. And that's what maybe new commentators struggle with. And I think that was the one thing that I always wanted to focus on when I was trying to find my voice as a commentator of when do I get excited and how do I really show that this moment is the biggest moment that you're going to see today?
If everything comes at an energy level and an excitement of like a 10 out of 10, then nothing is a 10 out of 10. You need to have a scale. You need to have balance. It's a massive lesson, frankly, for anything in our industry, whether it's social media, whether it's content, but like you got to keep that in mind, those scales. I want to be a little reflective now, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're at ESL now, EFG. You're working on these games. You start working towards Apex Legends, right? And we're going to build up to this debut. Now, there's two angles I want you to explore. Number one, had you continued competing on console, do you think you would have had as much success as you have had as a caster? And then when you look back on your casting side of things, how did the moments lead you to eventually ALGS?
No, I wouldn't have had as much success competing. I think I can be honest there. Like, I had a relatively successful semi-pro career. I was finishing top 3, top 4 in Halo events, FIFA events, PES events. Like, I was up there. Nowadays, if I was competing in Halo and I was at that level, I would have been getting my travel paid for. I would have been going to these events regularly, but I don't think I would have found the success that I have as a commentator. I think I can say that honestly, when I look at what I've been paid with my career compared to the prize money that players earn, I'm happy with the decision that I made. And I think it was a sensible one at the time. And I'm very glad that I didn't make the decision to keep competing when Sims asked me back in the day. But I do still think I've still got it. I could still take some of these kids on certain games.
Listen, when you're good, you're good. But there's a different level between being good and being pro.
Exactly.
And the other thing is the games as well. Like Forza, Halo, a lot of the console-based games, especially in Europe, did not see the levels of success that we saw in the US.
Absolutely. And I think, you need to be really the top 1% if you're going to be able to really make it a living. So, I made the right decision on that fact. And then how it all kind of happened leading up to ALGS. So I was at ESL. I auditioned or I sent in, there was a casting call for Hearthstone. And I remember I sent in a video. I ended up getting hired by them. And that was when ESL started like renting me out as a freelancer almost. And then I realized, I can probably make a little bit more money. In the end, ESL UK kind of disbanded. I was made redundant and that decision was made for me. I went into freelance life and it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Then I started doing FIFA with Onset. We were at Gfinity and we were sat in did you ever do any of the Gfinity events, Quickshot?
I watched them. I did multiplays. So I got to do iSeries. I got to watch a lot of Gfinities, especially the Counter-Strike tournaments and the FCG tournaments as well. So I'm well aware of it, but I never got to attend one. And it's sad.
They were very special in their own way. Yeah. But it was all in a cinema, basically, for a long time in Gfinity. And I was there with Onset. I think we were doing a Halo event. And he was like, hey, you want to cast some FIFA with me? was like, yeah, hell yeah, of course I will. I'd love to. We then started doing FIFA, and we took that game by storm. We joined Brandon and Richard, who are now like the guys at
they
FIFA.
Are huge.
They are
exactly.
the guys. We were doing finals with them. Prior to that, D-Man, Joe Miller were doing FIFA as well. So I was amongst names that I had respected so much in the industry. But then EA were like, hey guys, we have this Battle Royale coming out. Would you and Mark be interested in maybe like playing it, testing it, and potentially commentating it when it comes out? And obviously Mark and I, who are FPS lovers, but also sports lovers, we were like, yeah, we would absolutely love to try it out. One thing led to another. Apex came out. They trusted us to be a part of the commentary team. And bear in mind, we weren't the main guys. We were on the B stream to begin with. We were just the backup to the main casters, who at the time were Bravo and Dreadnought, which also has history because Bravo casts Halo with Onset. So there's a lot of weirdness there. But that was how we started, and we worked very hard. And in the end, we got trusted to be some of the main guys on Apex.
I mean, it's an incredible journey. It's also something that's quite unique, because what I think you've definitely been very humble about, and maybe even underplayed a little, is jumping straight into ESL broadcast for console titles, even if it's the smaller-ish titles for the time frame. You found success very quickly jumping into the industry, and that's not 100% the same for everybody. And when I look back at ALGS, like being there from the Invitational right at the beginning to now leading up to literally winning a Colorcaster of the Year award for a game that I know you as the Apex guy. Let's talk about what Apex means to you as a person, and how much Apex has either positively influenced your gaming experience, or has it made you a Battle Royale guy? Do you miss some of the other titles? So how was Dan as a player? And then obviously the what does it mean to you professionally?
Apex was the first game in a long time that I fell in love with like I did Halo. I love video games. I play every game. When a new game comes out, I will play it just in case any work could lead to it. But even prior to that, I was just playing games because I love video games. But Apex made me feel some kind of way. You know, it made me tingle in all those kind of places that Halo did back in the day when I was just a wee lad. So I knew that game was going to be special for me, and it still is special for me. I get to work alongside some incredible talent. I actually met my girlfriend through the game as well. Glitter Explosion. 6-7 years ago, we were working together, and then just a couple of years ago, we started dating. It just kind of happened. But the fact that I've been able to find best friends, a life partner, and a career all through one game, it's hard not to really be so thankful for its existence.
I can only say I mirror your story. Mine is just League of Legends, and I'm now married to the woman as well that I met through the game. So trust me when I say I understand. I really do. But what I would love for you to help explain to me is a little bit more about, let's say, how Apex Legends catapulted you to the forefront. I think it is fair to say that as Apex Legends has grown, as the community and the ALGS tournaments and the worldwide footprint has developed, ALGS is, in my mind, the definitive competitive Battle Royale. Some will look at PUBG, but I think what League of Legends is to Dota, I think Apex Legends is to PUBG. That's my personal opinion. How did the journey look over the time frame to becoming the top dog, and how do you handle the responsibility?
Yeah, I think that was tough because doing Halo all the time, I was never on finals for Halo. I was always just, winners finals or Elim finals, and I loved that. I didn't care. I've never really been someone who's like, I have to be doing the grand finals, otherwise I'm quitting. Like, I don't really care that much for it. But then when Apex came around and we were working very hard, and they decided to start putting us on grand finals, that was a huge moment for me, because I had always been the guy in the background, or at least I felt like that. I think that as a color commentator, you can sometimes feel like you're not as noticed. And I think that's okay. I think that it's okay not to be as noticed, because it isn't necessarily about you. It's about the moment. But the play-by-play is always going to be the voice that is heard on the recordings, that's going to be heard on the VODs, is going to be heard in the highlight package for the most part. Sometimes you'll creep in and you feel a little bit good about yourself. But that's also what I love about color commentary, is that I can elevate my partner so that they can have those moments and they can enjoy those moments and we can share them together as a team. And that's why I've loved working with Onset, because when we got given that opportunity, we both took it in our stride. We did not kind of struggle with that moment. We didn't panic about that moment. We just locked in and said, we need to take this opportunity now. Otherwise, someone else is going to have it instead of us. So we worked hard. We prepped. We talked about everything there could have been to talk about, commentary from player storylines to how should we do final calls to how much should or shouldn't we talk in over each other? Should we interrupt each other in those big moments? And he just gets it. Onset just gets it. And I'm very thankful that I've been able to have him as a partner, because he was able to push me and I was able to push him in different ways. And we learned a lot about this industry through each other and our experiences. And I think that we both just understand play-by-play and color by working together so much together.
I really, really love that you called out win moments, because, oh my God, I think it's something that's, relatively speaking, easy to plan. You know, you can ideate, what are the storylines? I always went into my games with having 2 or 3 different variations, depending on what the result could be. Way simpler in League of Legends. There's 2 teams, one either wins well or wins doesn't. Trust me, I understand the complexity differences, but I would love for you to help explain in layman terms a little bit of the complexities of an Apex broadcast, of a Battle Royale, the number of teams, the number of players, the number of legends. How is it different from so many other of the more traditional mainstream esport titles?
Yeah, I think to compare it to Halo, which I did a lot of, or even FIFA, because FIFA is, or FC it's now called, it was 1v1 for the most part. Or Halo, it's one team versus another team with 4 players on each. It's quite easy, or it is easier to prep for those games, because even if it's 30 minutes before a broadcast, you can pull up all the stats on 2 players or even 8 players. It's pretty easy to do. For 60 odd players competing, for 30 teams playing, it's, you know, it gets very confusing when you get into a battle royale, depending on how many teams are going to be playing in that battle royale. But for Apex, we have a document before every event where we go through every single team and we at least have one talking point, at least one, even if it's a newer team that we don't necessarily know much about or the community doesn't know much about. We try and find something that we can talk about, some sort of narrative, some sort of storyline, and then we will go even deeper for the players if they have something that we can back up as well. Not every player has a story. Sometimes it will be their first LAN event, which is a story in itself. But the reason why we want something on every single team is because anyone could win. And I put out a video recently of the final moments from the ALGS Championship. And Oblivion were about to win. Mark and I knew they were going to win, or we knew they had a chance to win. And I wanted to give him time to try and work out what he was going to say. Because sometimes, like you said, you know, if it's a TSM back in the day, you would have a one-liner in the back of your mind because it's TSM. Yeah. We've seen it and it's happened. But for Oblivion, this was something a little bit different. And as a color commentator and a partner to my play-by-play, who this is the moment that is going to be remembered in history, I wanted to give him that time to really nail it down. And whilst I will always back up that point afterwards and come out with some lines that I also get time to think about, I think he really appreciated that I didn't try and take the moment. I didn't try and like jam too much information before that happened. I paused, I gave it a breath, I looked at him, and I trusted him in that moment to just rack through his brain, start thinking about this team and how he's going to really plan that moment. And I think he did excellent.
I mean, I really, really love just how much forethought you put into it. And I mean, Gaskin, you know that you're an amazing team player. It's so apparent in how you present yourself, how you carry yourself, but also on broadcast, how supportive you are, right? Of everyone around you, how complimentary and positive. How is the team dynamic on this as well? Because I know, again, much like other broadcasts, like you did on for ESL in the UK, it's much smaller scale, different size events. Gfinities, you talked about, organizing LANs, and I know you've been an event organizer. I know you've done production sides, things like that. How is the broadcast for an Apex Battle Royale different? And how much harder is it when you do travel to these massive stadium events?
I think what's funny is a lot of those guys from ESL and Gfinity have now found their way into like EFG and have found themselves in the same kind of areas. And walking around the ALGS championship, I remember seeing people. I'm like, hold on, I remember you from like 10 years ago. Why are you here? And they're like, oh, I've been part of this broadcast for 6 months or a year or 2 years. And it's such a big team. It's hard to know everyone, but you'd be surprised how many people I do know and connect with. And what I love, and this is going to sound maybe a bit mushy, but I see those people and they have a smile on their face when they see me because they remember the Dan Gaskin who was, just starting out, and they're happy to see me succeeding as I'm happy to see them succeeding as well. And it's not just the production side. I mean, obviously the whole talent team, some incredible people on the Apex talent team. I say that Mark and I do our spreadsheets and our documents, but so does everyone. Everyone works so hard on this game. And that's what I love. There's no one just kind of, phoning it in and just turning up for the day. Instead, we have an entirely hardworking team who just wants to make the broadcast better. And that's what I love about Apex. And in terms of how big these events have got, sure, that adds to the pressure, and it's quite nerve-wracking at times when you walk out. And there was 17,000 fans at the ALGS Championships in Japan. Unbelievable. It took my breath away, and I cried when I walked out. Actually, no, I cried when the players walked out for 2 reasons. I imagined, what would this have been like if I was playing at this time, or if like esports was this big when I was competing? And I can only imagine how it must feel for these players to be walking out and getting a round of applause from 17,000 fans who are there to watch them play video games. Unbelievable. But also, I was emotional because I was there. I was in that moment. I'm a part of that moment as well. And the growth in esports has been unbelievable. I think the same when I see some of the Rainbow Six events, some of the Counter-Strike events, the League events. Like, these arenas are being filled by people now, and we are all so lucky to be a part of it as well. If you are in that kind of position, whether you are a producer, whether you are just an admin, whether you're a player, whether you're a talent, whether you are a fan itself, it's so bloody cool what we are doing and what we're seeing. And I just hope it gets to grow and hope it gets to continue.
I think that it will. I think it's impossible not to. When you look at the proliferation of the internet, technology is getting cheaper with the exception of RAM right now. I believe that it will. I want to ask, what is one of your favorite memories in broadcasts, no matter what scale? There's going to be many, I know, but what's one that comes to mind immediately that you look back on and just brings a massive smile to your face?
There's a couple. I've got my mushy answer, which was Give me two. Okay, I'll give you 2. My mushy answer is I got to commentate Apex with Glitter, my girlfriend. Mark
was it public knowledge?
Mark was sick, and they needed someone to fill in. And they were like, hey, Dan, who do you want to cast with? And, Glitter typically is a host of Apex Legends, but has also been doing a lot of casting as well. She gets to fill in and cast on the online shows, and she used to be a caster before she got moved into more of a hosting role. And I was like, hey, this might be one of the few opportunities we ever get to cast at a LAN event in front of a live audience with my girlfriend. And so I was like, give me Glitter Explosion and we will crush it. And we did. I think she was amazing, and I loved casting with her. I felt bad that Mark had to be sick for that to happen. But in that moment and after that moment, I was like, I will remember this for the rest of my life. This is something that we got to do because it's, like you said, you and your partner, you met through League of Legends, right? So I got to meet her through Apex. We get to tell that story for forever now. And not only that, but we also got to work together in our niche job that people don't really understand until you start telling them about it. And the fact that we got to do it together is amazing. Aside from that, it probably would be the first grand finals that Mark and I did where we were on the call for that final moment. In Apex, it's a big thing. Who's commentating the final moment? Because it's not like every other esport where typically, I say every other, most other esports where one commentary pair will do the grand finals. In Apex, there's too many games. You couldn't put that on one commentary pair. They would just blow themselves out. It wouldn't be fun to watch for anyone or fun to commentate. So typically there is 2 commentary pairs. And for a long time, Mark and I were doing grand finals, but we wouldn't be on the last game. And we weren't really bothered by that. We're just happy to be doing the grand finals. We're happy to be there in that moment. But when that moment came, and this one may not have been the first one, but if you remember the line, Hell comes down from the heavens, when TSM were able to win that championship, that moment, the crowd erupting, Mark nailing that line, The follow-up lines as well that I was able to have as a color commentator, I was holding back tears just because I was like, holy shit, this is it. This could be one of the biggest moments of my career, just being able to be a part of this moment and go down in esports history. Now, thankfully, there have been other moments equally as big, but that one was the one that really resonates with me.
I love it so much. I can genuinely feel the passion coming through. There's just so much love for the game, for your partner, for getting that moment. I don't think there's very many people on the planet that have had that opportunity. Like, you are such a small percentile to be able to have that memory. It is amazing. Let's change topic a little bit now. I want to zoom out and I want to talk about Dan Gaskin, the professional, because you talked about going freelance. That decision was kind of made for you with ESL, layoffs, redundancies, etc. You've also mentioned both the esports industry growing, Apex Legends growing. So how has Dan Gaskin, the professional, also grown outside of just commentary? So what else has been on the up burner, and what other projects did you sink your teeth into?
So I'm always on the lookout for more. It's an interesting industry because you'll know as well, you can have a lot of downtime. And whilst that downtime will be filled with preparation for X event and playing X game, I've always wanted to do more. I've always felt like I'm not busy enough. I'm like, well, I've got a free weekend here. Why am I not commentating something? Why am I not working on something? So I'm always looking to do more. And whilst there's definitely an element of doing too much, and if you stretch yourself too thin, it's very difficult to prepare for those games. But I've always had the magic number of 3, if not 4. But 3 is the big one for me. 3 has always been the big one. I've always been like, if I can do 3 major titles, I'm happy. And then if extras come along the way, white label events, etc., that's great. But I've always wanted 3. Now, with Halo taking a little bit of a gap this year, I have an opening. And I have been looking for other titles, and I do have exciting things coming that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. I will allow
That's exciting.
people to kind of guess there if they want to. Yeah, they can speculate, but that will be announced in due time. Anyway, I just always want to do more. Quick shot. I've always wanted to do the next thing and push myself and challenge myself because, yes, I predominantly colorcast, but I have done little bits of play-by-play in FC. Like when Onset stopped doing FIFA with me and I wasn't seen as desirable as a color commentator, so I moved into play-by-play and I found work doing play-by-play in FC instead. And I have done more stage hosting and more desk hosting because I just want to do as much as I can. I think as a professional, I'm like, what is there I can do to elevate myself to the next level? How can I push myself to that next level that will really change my career or keep my career going? Because I'm well aware this can all disappear in an instant.
Yeah.
If you make one bad move, or if you upset the wrong person, or if you are not very good at your job, suddenly you're not going to get hired, and then you are back to your normal 9 to 5. And after doing this for as long as I have, I don't want to go back to doing a normal job, and I hope that I never have to. But I know that one day I will be too old and I'm going to have to do something a little bit different. And
it's my hope. It's my hope that my voice will just keep me until retirement. Like, right? Honestly, let me stay in my bedroom and let me do stuff online just like this. I will be happy.
That's the thing is you see sports commentators doing it. And yes. I think sports commentary actually has learned a lot from esports commentary, or at least broadcast. During COVID, they took so much from esports because they realized that, okay, there's a different way we can do these things. And a lot of sports commentators are actually on camera more than they used to be. Before, it didn't really matter what you looked like. As long as your voice was good, you could kind of get away with it and you could be 75 and still at your peak. But now, presenting on camera, I do think there is an element where as you get older, people might not resonate as much with you. But at the same time, as we get older, the fans are getting older as well.
Yep.
And that's something that, especially in like Counter-Strike, for example, I think I don't know what the actual statistic is, but the average viewer probably is around 30 to 40.
Can I tell you something about Counter-Strike that you're going to love? So just a week or 2 weeks ago, they had the Intel Extreme Masters Krakow. And for the first time in Intel Extreme Masters history, a player was competing who is younger than the game. Okay? think about that for a second. Like, that's wild. Okay, before we get to the future, I want to look ahead in a second or two. I don't want to skip something that is huge, because you've got this incredible history already. In the span of 10 years, you've accomplished so much already. But in 2023, you win the Esports Awards Color Commentator of the Year. In 2024, you're nominated for it, so back to back. Let's talk about what that means. And let's start with, first of all, the professional side. What was the reflection you have knowing that your peers voted for you, not only nominated you, but voted for you and ultimately selected you for Color Caster of the Year?
It's funny because when I was first nominated, my initial thought was, it's about time. And it sounds arrogant, but the year prior, I had casted the finals on 3 different titles as a color commentator, which I don't think anyone else really had done, or at least not to my knowledge anyway. I'm sure there are people who are fantastic color commentators who do several games, but at a high level, I had done that much, and I didn't get that recognition. And I was like, all right, it's whatever. I don't need that recognition. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. I'm not ready. It's not my moment. It's not my time. I haven't done enough. I need to do more. And whilst my goal was never to get an esports award, I always wanted to get the recognition and get a nomination. So then when the nomination came through, I was delighted. And yes, I was like, no, it's about time. I should have had it last year. But then I was like, wait, I think about it. All those things that I didn't done in the year prior,
correct,
they had then moved into the next year to give me that recognition. Yeah. I wasn't necessarily on the map enough that year. And I think that was fine. And it was the understanding that, I made myself get noticed in that year. And then I was given that recognition the year after. And that gave me a little bit of peace. I did not think I was going to win that award. I saw the other names who were on Color Commentator of the Year, and they were people I've looked up to for quite some time. I looked at their social following, and I was like, I am a very little fish in a big pond right now. I'm not going to win this. That's fine. I told my parents, don't bother watching the broadcast. You have to stay up till like 3 a.m. to watch it. I'm not going to win. I promise you. I would have known by now if I'm going to win. Alas, it was all a big secret. My friends in the industry, like Miles the Ross was presenting it. He knew. My agency knew. Apparently, a bunch of people knew and didn't tell me. And I get why they didn't tell me, because that is then a genuine reaction. But when my name was read out, it felt like a fever dream. It really was one of those moments. You have those moments where you're like, is this real life? Is this actually happening? And in the footage, I think it felt like I was sat there for about 15 seconds, not recognizing what was happening. But in reality, it was probably only a few before my girlfriend was like, you should probably stand up. You've won. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I probably should. So then it all started to hit me. But there's moments in life that just you repeat in your brain over and over again of, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? How did I walk? How did I talk? And that one is there with, like getting my degree and the first time you met your girlfriend and, those kind of moments, sporting events when you scored that goal and you're like, did I really do that? It really was a moment that took me back, and I didn't expect it to. I didn't think it would be as big of a deal to me as it was, because as you said, to gain that recognition, not just from the public, but also from people in this industry who have been doing it for equally as long, if not longer, it meant a lot. And it was all that hard work, all the long, stressful hours of working for little money back in the day and putting in as much effort as I can. It all became worth it. And I think it was already worth it to me anyway, because this career is unbelievable and I love that this is my job. But to finally put that icing on the cake was it for me. And I mentioned it in my interview. I lost my brother, well, it would have been before I started working in esports. But he was there back when I was 13, back when I was competing, back when we were adminning events, we were going to LAN events together. He would have been here with me in some form. I don't know if he would have been talent, but he would have been in the esports industry. He was there. He was right in the nitty gritty with me. So it felt like it was for him as well. So that also made it extra special because it really put the exclamation mark at the end of everything.
I did say it beforehand, but I really am tearing up.
You don't cry. I didn't cry.
I do.
I've held
it's
off.
Gonna happen. I cried everything. It's incredibly emotional, and I watched that moment back just before, and I will admit, I think you were stun locked. I think if you do watch those first 3 seconds, it's quite clear that your brain is frozen. I'm also really thankful that you brought up your brother, because I wanted to ask, how prepared was that? You went into this. I really appreciate the self-respect and it's about time, because I know that feeling. You grind so hard, you want to prove it. And then when your name is on that list, you're like, fuck, at last. But then you win it. They call your name. You've already covered so much. Did you know that you were going to talk about your brother? How much did you plan your speech? And how much of it was just reaction in the moment?
I had no plan for a speech. I 100% genuinely did not believe I was winning it. It wasn't until so funny story. Bravo won it the year before. And obviously I'm good friends with Bravo. And he told me about when he won, he kind of noticed the camera was in the corner and looking at him. And he was like, oh, holy shit, I'm going to win this thing. It wasn't until I kind of saw that camera, I was like, wait, surely there's someone behind me that camera's pointing at, because this is starting to sound similar to what had happened to him. But I really didn't believe I was going to win. I did not have a speech planned. I did have a dream. I don't know if it was the night before or a week before. It doesn't really matter when it was. I had a dream that I won the award. In that dream, I gave a speech. Now, when I got up there, I kind of tapped into that dream and was like, I'm going to use some of the things I said in my dream because they seemed nice. And it kind of just, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth. I was trying not to quiver and cry. And I didn't know if I was going to talk about my brother, really. When I do talk about my brother, I get very emotional, as anyone would when they've lost their brother. Yeah. But on a stage like that, when also that much adrenaline is running through you, that much emotion is running through you, there is a very big chance that you just turn into a crying mess when you start to talk about something that emotional. So it was definitely a risk, but I felt like I owed it to him almost in that moment. It definitely wasn't planned, but I'm glad I did it. There was, oh God, no, now I'm going to cry. So at my brother's funeral, I wasn't brave enough to do a speech. And that always, fuck. That always hurt that I didn't say something at the funeral. So this almost, I don't know, it felt like that moment they replaced that for me and kind of put that to bed, if that makes any sense.
It really does. It really does. And I obviously don't know your brother. I barely know you personally. But I'll make a bold statement. Based on how you talked about growing up and playing video games with your family and your friends, I bet your brother would have really loved being the center of attention in that story, in front of quite literally the world, because it's quite unusual in our industry to see open emotional tears. It's not commonplace, right? Sports tears, celebration tears, you see those, but the more raw feelings, they don't come out that often. I'm somebody who's talked a lot about my own mental health, and I had a burnout situation and I'm going through therapy. So I've grown up from a boy to a man, quite literally, while being on camera. I want to say thank you for being vulnerable. And I want to ask you how your personal growth has also been affected, because I can only imagine that there's something freeing and also terrifying about that moment being something that's quite literally a defining point in your career.
I think that I've always been afraid to speak about things because I don't want to get emotional, because I'm worried about going down that path and opening up those kind of worms. But as I said, esports has given me a platform to speak about how much I do love my brother and how much I do miss my brother and how much I know he would have loved to have been here and been a part of this. So I think that's helped me grow as a person, helped make me stronger and stop kind of suppressing those emotions and stop ignoring them and putting them deeper down, because then you get those explosive moments where just randomly out of nowhere, you start absolutely bawling it. I think a few years ago, I was watching a film, and that film happened to remind me of my brother, and I just lost control and started crying randomly. And my girlfriend was like, "Why on earth are you crying?" And I was like, "I don't really know. It's just reminding me of my brother." And we then had a chat about it. But I do think that esports really, and maybe it's just because I'm a forward presenting person and I kind of have to be open to people, or I feel like I have to be open to people because I am a personality in the space. But I do think it has allowed me to gain the confidence to speak about the things that maybe I wouldn't have previously.
Yeah, and at the risk of being derogatory and stereotypical, British people as a population are at a negative when it comes to speaking publicly about feelings anyway. Just take my word for it. This is a fact. I have a lot of a lot of British friends. It's hard to do. I want to commend you. I really want to say thank you. I got one more question on the personal journey. How much do you think, as a human being and as Dan, the person, has grown up and changed alongside your 10 years of professional gaming and esports?
I've changed an incredible amount. I think that I've learned not to be selfish. I've learned to respect others. I've learned not to talk badly of other people, which I think is very important in this industry, that you need to respect everyone. And negativity gets passed around, and if you're a piece of shit, it's going to be found out in this industry very quickly. And I think that when I first started out, it's very easy to be like, oh, this guy's not very good, or that guy's not very good. You don't realize at the time that how damaging that can be. And I've learned to be a nice person. I'm not saying I wasn't a nice person when I first started, but I was young. I was naive. I made mistakes. I probably upset and rubbed a few people the wrong way by not respecting the industry as well. Like, maybe I didn't turn up on time, or I didn't take notes in a meeting, or I kind of wasn't paying attention in a meeting or stuff like that because I didn't see it at the time as important. I mean, these are just examples I'm guessing of, but those kind of things that I've learned to really develop as a person and take everything seriously and take this moment, or not take this moment for granted, because as I said earlier, all of it could disappear. And I've made so many friends throughout this space. I found my girlfriend through this space. I didn't make her, although if I had to design a girlfriend, she probably would be as good as it could be. And hopefully, one day
that's getting clipped.
That girlfriend is my wife as well.
That's getting clipped.
But I think I have grown. I've grown a lot as a human being, not just throughout how to be in esports, but also how to treat other people, how to treat my family.
The examples you gave are really, really powerful ones, because being polite and nice to people, it is a skill. There's a way to do it, because you also need to be quite harsh and quite critical in our industry, in our job. And we are very lucky. We get to yell at computer screens for a job. Like, it's a miracle, and it's amazing to be here. As we start to now sort of round out the conversation for today's episode of Origins, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to move on to a section that we call our rapid fire round. But I want to make sure I'm just paying proper respect to the topics that we've just covered. So once we finish our rapid fire round, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the future and looking ahead for Gaskin and what it is. So gut reactions. If you have a one-word answer, if you have a sentence, if you have a paragraph, I'll follow your lead, but I'm going to be asking questions with a little bit of pace. Okay. So let's go with favorite Halo game ever.
Halo 2.
Why did Gears of War esports not succeed?
I don't know if it was the gore or maybe the community, but it was a very volatile community. Like, I remember Halo and Gears of War events were kind of together. There was fights every single event. I don't know. I think that there was a bit of a struggle with that community. Maybe they've grown up. Maybe it can come back.
Well, we'll find out. I have my doubts. Favorite Apex Legends map?
World's Edge.
Worst Apex Legends legend?
Caustic.
Favorite Apex Legends weapon?
R99.
Favorite Apex Legends team?
Wherever Hal is.
Okay, fair. How long did it take you to grow your beard?
COVID. COVID was a massive gift, and it blessed us all because I was able to stay inside and grow this beard and go through the patchy phase.
Which casting partner is the worst at match point math?
Onset.
That's all I wanted to do. Okay. Listen, let's slow down for a second now. And as we start to wrap up, what does the future hold for Dan Gaskin? What's coming in the immediate term and what's coming in 5 or 10 years down the line?
When's this going to be released?
Soon TM. Let's say within a week, but less than a month.
So I have new things coming up in March and April, but then...
Of 2026, to be clear.
Of 2026, depending on what year you may be watching this video.
Yes.
If you're watching this 100 years from now, hi. But also, yeah, Apex then starts back up in April as well, at the end of March, start of April. I will probably still do some Halo this year, albeit I think that most of it is going to be pretty grassroots this year, so I probably won't be at any of the like local stuff, but hopefully Halo Fest at the end of the year. A couple of FC events maybe here or there. But you'll also see me streaming and just playing video games and loving life as always. But I'm very excited to talk about what's coming in March and April, but I'm really not allowed to tell anyone, which is very frustrating.
Listen, you're an Esports Awards alumni, a nominee from not too long ago. I still haven't won an award myself. Highly respected, highly loved, highly valued. If the Esports Awards platform and show can ever, support in one of the announcement is, let us know. Just for the record, I'm just a host of the show, but the producer who does work for Esports Awards, I'm just putting words in his mouth. Very quickly on Halo, because it's coming to PlayStation, I'm not sure if it's out just yet. Do you think we're going to see a bit of a resurgence, seeing PlayStation kiddies? I'm somebody that never owned an Xbox, never played Xbox, don't know anything about it, so I've never touched a Halo. Are PlayStation kiddies going to play and compete and bring a competitive scene?
I think, I don't know this for 100% sure, but I think it's just a campaign that's coming out on PlayStation re-release, which I do still think it will have, there will be a lot of people playing it who have never played Halo before, and I'm very excited for that because that might start their journey. But as far as I'm aware, there is no sort of multiplayer cross-console stuff happening yet.
Oh, you see, I should have looked that one up. I got too excited. Okay, now, you said a line that really tickled me. If you're watching this video 100 years from now, first of all, in the year 2126.
Wow.
Dan Gaskin is one of the greatest commentators. Actually, how will people talk about your legacy 100 years from now? How do you want them to? What will you be leaving behind as Gaskin?
Wow, that is a tough question. I would like to be remembered as someone who everyone enjoyed being around. As someone who always appreciated what they were doing, appreciated their job, but also worked darn hard at it as well, was always prepared, always put the time in. Whenever a mistake was made, would always find a way to fix it. I would like to be remembered as an esports commentator who did it all. I tried everything, every role, and maybe even going behind the scenes as well, like trying producing or talent management or something like that. I would just like to be remembered as the jack of all trades who kind of did everything but reached the top and had a great bloody time while he did it as well. That would be nice.
If there's any anecdote to help validate that you're on the right path, I got to meet you and interact with you and hang out quite a lot in Vegas last year for the 2025 Esports Awards. We've not spent a significant amount of time getting to know one another. And on one of our days, we went go-karting. Crim 6 was the star of the day. We were the supporting cast, both Quickshots and Dan Gaskin and a number of the other nominees and people at the event. You came to me. You pulled me out of the crowd and made friends and could see that I was kind of a bit of the loner. Started chatting, brought me in. You then went on to play second and like absolutely smurf on the go-kart track. So I will just say, as somebody who got to experience that side, you nailed it. I want to say thank you. And I have one last question before we do say our goodbyes. If you had the resources and the time to match Crim 6, would you be quicker than him on the track?
So, technically, I finished first. I have the gold trophy, right? I will caveat that he did slow down and let me overtake him because he wanted to race, but he never caught me back up. Just going to put that out there. He's incredibly quick. I think in qualifying, I was only 0.2 behind him or something, which is great. But I also probably weigh half of what he does as well, which is very important in go-karting. I think that if I did focus on go-karting, I could be very quick. It was something I did a lot, and actually I'll use this opportunity just to mention my brother one more time. As if you can see this, so that is me and my brother at the last go-karting event we went to. He won, I came second. So I was always slower than someone. And I do think, yes, I could be quick at go-karting if I had the time. But Crim6 was the boy. You could also be very quick at go-karting if you had the time. You weren't far behind either.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't even finish on the podium. We're not here to gas me up. This is the Esports Origins Dan Gaskin episode. Dude, I want to say thank you so much. I really, really have enjoyed getting to know you better. I've really enjoyed hanging out both professionally, seeing you at a couple of other events over the last few years. I want to say thank you on behalf of everyone, but thank you on behalf of particularly men on the internet being comfortable to share their feelings and show. I think it's really, really powerful. I think it has further ramifications than you maybe even realize. So thank you for all of that. As a final goodbye, please let us know exactly what your channels are. Let our viewers know exactly how they can follow you on socials. And then we'll say our goodbyes.
So if you'd like to follow my journeys, X is at Dan Gaskin. My Twitch is just twitch.tv/Gaskin. My Instagram is Daniel Gaskin. Pretty easy to find me because it's just my name. I would like to just thank my parents. I haven't really spoke much about my parents in this podcast, but without them, none of this would have happened. Like, my mum was the one driving me to LANs when I was 13. My dad is probably the reason why I'm happy to open up and be emotional on camera, because he never stopped me from being emotional, and he was always emotional as well. So I thank him for giving me that space and making me feel comfortable. But I love my parents very much, and I just wanted to say thank you, because I didn't mention them in other stories, because there's not enough time in the world.
No, blame me. Listen, first of all, can we go single on me? I want to do a full formal apology to Mr. and Mrs. Gaskin. I'm the one that took your son away from the conversation. He would have thanked you earlier if I didn't railroad him. So I'm very sorry. Dan, I'm just going to say one last time, thank you so much, man. It really is a pleasure. You've got an infectious positivity, and I wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you so much, mate. Thank you for having me, and it's been great to get to know you more as well.
Yes, next time you'll be able to get another Color Caster of the Year award. Maybe be Host of the Year. We can compete, actually. That's what it'll be. Right, we're going to say our goodbyes. That does it for another episode of the Esports Awards Origins podcast. I was your host, Quickshot. Dan Gaskin is one of my favorite guests we've ever had the pleasure of speaking to. And we've got a whole bunch of other guests, creators, players, professionals. Look, there's a playlist, there's links. Just go watch another one. And we'll see you next time on the Origins podcast.